Hi all, we're going to take a look at your differentiated lesson plans. Now this is going to be one of the most important things we do here because this is going to translate to our lesson plans that we actually will do in instructional design. So this is giving you a heads up on how to do the differentiated portion of this. So what you're going to do is you're going to complete the differentiated sections of the lesson plan template to enhance two different lesson plans. The original lesson plans are on course pages, and I'll show you where to find those in a minute. You'll click the lesson which most closely matches your content area. Students will identify how the differentiation should be addressed in each lesson to meet individualized and specialized needs through the differentiation of content, process, product, and environment, and then explain and justify the stated differentiation. So you're actually going to submit this twice. So we have lesson 1 and lesson 2. One is going to be in the first couple weeks, the other one's going to be in the last week. So you'll choose your first lesson from lesson plan 1 folder. If you're elementary, choose the elementary. If you're middle grades, choose one of your two content areas. You'll do the second content area for the next lesson. If you're high school, choose the middle grade lesson that matches your context. Remember, high school actually goes down to the middle grades. You're going to be a 612 certification. For the second submission later in the semester, choose the second lesson from lesson plan 2. If you are elementary, choose the elementary lesson that's provided. If you're middle, choose the content area you didn't use in your first submission. If you're high school, choose the lesson that matches your content area. So right here you can see here's our lesson plan 1. There's the elementary, middle grades ELA, middle grades math, middle grades science, middle grades social studies, and then music education. And then when you have lesson plan 2, here's elementary, high school English, high school science, high school history, middle grades ELA, middle grades math, middle grades science, middle grades social studies, music, chorus, band, and then here's your templates. Let's take a look at a lesson plan sample and the template. So under lesson plan number 1, this is the elementary lesson plan. And so you really need to read through this thoroughly and understand the standards and the focus, big idea questions and your lesson objectives. But you'll notice as when you come down through this template, your differentiation section is completely blank along with your cross-curricular connections. And we're going to talk about how to fill this in a minute. Everything you fill in this section will relate to the lesson plan and to the information provided about your student in their IEP or 504, which I will give you. So on the course page in that folder, you'll see that there is a class description for lesson plan 1 and lesson plan 2 based on the disabilities that we've covered during those sections. So for differentiated lesson plan 1, our class description, we have 4 students that receive services in our class. The first is Neville, who has autism spectrum disorder. He cannot tolerate loud noises and needs a consistent routine. He also has difficulty finishing assignments when he becomes overwhelmed. His 504 states that he needs extended time on assignments in a separate room for testing. Then we also have one speech language impairment. This is Molly, who has an expressive language disorder. She has difficulty remembering vocabulary terms and holding conversations with friends. She also has a 504, and it says that she needs to be given her vocabulary words in advance and has extended time on tests and assignments. And then we have one student who is LD in reading. Ginny has dyslexia. The words on the page move around for her, and she has difficulty sounding out multisyllabic words, which lowers her reading fluency and comprehension. She is currently reading 2 grade levels below her peers. Her IEP states that she has audiobooks, a note taker, graphic organizer, read aloud tests, testing in a separate room, and extended time on assignments. Then we also have an English language learner in our class. Fleur has very low English proficiency. She's only been present in the U.S. for 1 month, and she is going to be using Google Translator, simplified vocabulary with pictures. Now, what this means for us over here on the differentiated lesson plan is first off, we have adaptations to meet individualized, specialized needs. How will you adapt the instruction to meet the needs of the students who receive special services, gifted, accelerated ELLs? So basically what you're going to do here is a bulleted list, and I'll show you a sample in just a minute, where you're pulling the information from the 504 and IEP and adding it to here. So you're going to be listing everything that's here. So here we have extended time on assignments in separate room for testing. So we'd put that here. This next one here says vocabulary words in advance, extended time on tests and assignments. Well, we already have listed extended time on assignments, so we just need to add extended time on tests. So you'll constantly be adding to the list using what's in the IEP 504, or even here our English language learner, including that as well. Next, what we're going to think about is jumping down to differentiation description. Okay, so considering our lesson was ELA and elementary, what we were looking at is now we have to decide what we're going to do for these students to make this lesson accessible to them, utilizing the information from their 504 and IEP. So, for example, it says here, Neville needs extended time on assignments in a separate room for testing. Well, think about the assignment that is going with the lesson plan that you looked at as far as creating the idea of Greek heroes and comparing that today. So Neville would need some extra time on that. So you'd want to include that here in the differentiation. So you'd give his initial N, you'd say would have extra time given on the assignment of creating the superhero because you want to show that it's been done in this lesson. Now, you'll see in the example that we put student initials. Part of this is for legal reasons. Remember, their IEPs are legally binding and 504s are legally binding documents, and you always want to be able to ensure parents and anyone who looks into it that you're meeting all the needs of the students during your lesson. So then you look at Molly. She has difficulty remembering vocabulary terms, so her vocab terms would have to be given in advance. And again, she'd have extended time on this assignment too. Then we look here at Ginny, and she's going to be using an audio book for the reading. If you don't have a book available, you can partner up with a peer reader who will read aloud to her. So that's a way you can modify that. She's going to be needing a graphic organizer, and so you tie that directly to the lesson, and same with Fleur. Then we got to think about how this meets other areas of the curriculum, because it's all about how can we make connections. Well, when you're looking at Greek mythology, obviously you're going to be looking at history as well. You're going to be looking at ideas of religion, possibly even geography, some aspects of art, and you want to explain what those are. The last thing you need to do is check off the type of differentiation that you're using: content, process, product, or environment. Remember, content, we're adjusting the standards in some way, shape, or form. Process, we're changing how students are learning. Product, we're changing how students are demonstrating what they have learned. And environment, we're changing where the learning is taking place. Let's look at some examples to help you see how this fits together. As a precursor, I change what the students and their disabilities and IEP and 504s are all the time. So this may not match exactly what yours are for this assignment. So this is what was provided for this student. So if you see here, they went ahead and just bulleted everything that they needed to include from the IEPs or 504s. And then we jump down here, and this is really important. First off, they listed that this student has an IEP and that their LD in reading on a second grade level. Teacher will simplify vocabulary in the fill in the blank handout and have corresponding pictures for each term. So this is going to be content and process. You're simplifying the vocabulary, which means you're changing the standards, which is a content, and then providing the pictures is a form of how the students are learning. So that's a process. So they've listed what the type of differentiation is as well. So you've got this is an IEP, the student's initials, what you're doing specifically in this lesson for this student, and whether it's content, process, product, or environment. Then for the ELL, they listed good social communication struggles with academic language. And in this case, this is just what they've learned about the student. Teacher will partner the student with another during the vocabulary activity to reinforce vocabulary and understanding. And the partnering is a process. Then they moved on to a 504, and this student had a speech impairment with expressive language. Teacher will allow students to create a visual representation of each vocabulary term to show their understanding. And so they're changing the way the students are demonstrating. So that's going to be a product. And then the last one, You see the student initials. This is also a 504. Autism spectrum disorder, manifestations on animals, repetitive flapping. Teacher will allow student to have a stress ball as a non-destructive fidget toy to reduce flapping. Teacher will allow student to draw an animal that contains elements of her heroism as seen as strong and mighty in the animal kingdom. So this is process and product. We're changing there. And look at the cross-curricular. So history, draw a connection between the aspect of myths and the historical aspects of Greek life. Social studies, relate the study of mythology to Greek culture and geography. And religion, the teacher can discuss aspects of the Greek religion and how it relates to mythology. And then you check off which ones that you have used, and the student used content, process, and product. Now make sure you're utilizing at least 3 throughout all of your students as you're doing this. Now, as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.